So today we're going to take a look at what I've been working on, and this is that spreadsheet that I've shown a couple times, but I have revised it, changed it around a little bit, and I just wanted to get everybody's opinion and feedback on it, just to let me know what you think. So today we're going to do something a little bit different, and we're just going to go over a spreadsheet that I've been working on. It's not done yet, but I have made quite a bit of changes, and I wanted to get everybody's feedback on it to let me know if there's anything else that you would like for it to show, and I can see if I can add that in. But once I get this wrapped up, I'll be able to share it out with everyone, just like my other spreadsheet. So let's just jump right on in here, and I'm going to show you basically how it works and what it does provide. So the first thing that you would do on the sheet would be to enter in your ticker symbol, as that is how you would start the sheet off here. And we're just going to go through this, and like I said, if you think of things that needs to be switched around, changed, or adjusted, then I can see if I can accommodate that. So we'll just do this one with MSTY, and I'll enter in MSTY into the cell here to start this sheet off. So once I hit enter, then I'll enter in the start date, and we'll put in a made-up start date of August 23rd, say 2024. I'll keep with this same end date as that being today's date. I'm not going to mess with this. And the next thing will be I'll enter in the investment amount, and we'll just enter in starting off with, say, $15,000. Okay, so that does calculate and tell you how many shares you would be able to get, and that's 596 shares utilizing that $15,000. Okay. Now, the other one here that's in orange, that tells you or reminds you that you may need to check your dividend table. Right now it says the table is empty. So if there are dividends for the stock that you've entered in, you would need to enter in those dividends into that table along with the pay dates so that it can pull that information into the table down below. So since that table's empty and we're using MSTY, we'll go straight to the YieldMax website for MSTY and pull those distributions straight in. So here we are on the YieldMax website for MSTY, and the distributions are down below. And if you just scroll right on down, you'll see right here, distribution details. Now it's pretty easy as far as in grabbing this information and dropping it right on in, because the table that I have happens to have these 5 columns here, which makes it nice and simple to grab any of the YieldMax ETFs that have these 5 columns and just copy and paste it straight into the table. All you have to do is basically click that first one and just drag it right on down, get them all highlighted like that, and then simply right click, copy, and then we'll go back to the sheet. All right, here we are back on the sheet, and we'll scroll right over, and once you get beyond the purple barrier right there, you'll see right here is that table, and this is where you drop that information in. So it's pretty simple. You click the first box right here, you right click on your mouse, and then rather than just pasting it, as that would also paste the formats and everything else, you really just want the values. So you'll special paste right here, and you just want to paste in the values themselves. So I'll click that, and there you go. Boom. Nice and simple, quick and easy. Now it shows all the distribution amounts right here and the pay dates. Or if it happened to be a different stock or ETF that you wanted to use this spreadsheet for, the only columns that you have to have filled in with that information is the pay date here, which is this green one, and this green one, which is the distribution per share amounts. So these two columns here and here are the main two columns that you have to have. The ones in the middle are not needed. The only reason they're there is because it just makes it easy to copy and paste that information from YieldMax straight into this sheet. So once we have that in, now the table will read from this chart and populate according to the date and the distribution amounts. All right, so now we've slid back over to the front of the sheet here, and as you can see, now it says to verify values for that dividend sheet here. Before it said table empty, right? Now it says to verify values. So that just means that there are values over there in that table, but you need to make sure that those values are the correct ones for MSTY. Because if you were doing this for MSTY and then you switched it over to, say, PLTY or CONY or PLTY or whatever, you would need to make sure that you do change those values over there in that table. It will just tell you here that you need to verify those to make sure that you did update that table. So that's all this is a nice little reminder. So off of that 15,000 that we invested here, we've got 596 shares. Another couple little new items I've added is these two boxes up here. And these are user defined entries, right? Any gray box are the boxes that the user can enter information into. So there's not a whole lot really here that you have to enter in. Everything else will be calculated for you. The end date, currently, I just have it already set as the end date, but you can change that if you do so choose. But everything else calculates for you. So this first one here, it's a potential buy if the price is 5% less than the previous closing price. Okay, so basically what that means is if that price, and I'm looking down here at the bottom of the chart, you see that $25.15 and $25 even. If that price drops more than that 5%, then I want to be notified that it did so. And then the second one says that it's a potential buy if the price is 10% less than my current average. So this one here takes into account my current average buy price, and then if that new closing cost is 10% less than my average, then it will notify me that that could be a potential buy as well. So both of these here are just for notifications, as that could be a good thing to see. And then we have our drip on or drip off. The drip is dividend reinvestment program. And that is where your broker will reinvest your distributions for you. Now you can do it on your own, or you can have your broker do it, right? But if you have your broker do it, then you can turn this on to help represent that happening. Now this will not be at the same time or price that your broker would be purchasing, because that is up to your broker of when they make those purchases. So this is just as a representation as if you had the drip on, right? And it's just a simple little drop down box here. So if you want it on, you click it on. If you don't want it on, you click it off, right? And the off is red, and when you turn it on, it's green. So that will change, and of course it will update all of the information accordingly. I also added an override button so that even if you have the drip off, or say better yet, you have the drip on, then there will be a cell over here, and as you can see, I've got these all on off right here, and you could turn that on for that distribution, right? Because if it is currently being dripped as you have it on here, you have the manual override where you can turn it off for that particular distribution. All right. Now, the off and on over here under this you have to understand this off and on means, is the manual override on or is the manual override off? That's what it means, not drip on or drip off over here, right? That is determined up here, whether you have the drip on or drip off. This just means even if you have it on or off, you can flip it for an individual payment, right? Because there may be times there where you are dripping for, say, 4 months, and then say you want to turn that drip off. Well, if you go up here and you turn it off, it's going to turn them all off, right? So what you could do is you just leave that on, and you can come over here and then turn your manual override on right here. And what that will do is it will not drip these shares and increase those number of shares, right? So I can take this for an example, and if I click the manual override on, you'll see that the shares now are gone, and therefore it did not increase the shares. And instead, it actually gave you money back into your account, okay? Now, anytime that you would want to switch to a different ETF, you would need to make sure that you have all of these as off. You don't want to leave one of the manual overrides on, because that could mess up with your sheet here as far as in getting the correct numbers, right? So what I've done is I've added this little checkbox right here, and it tells you to check your override right here, meaning that there's a manual override is on. And I have these kind of detailed right here so you know what this means. So check override means you have a manual override on. That means that you need to come over here, and it's not a problem if that's what you did and that's where you want it, right? So it's not like red being bad, right? It's just saying that you do need to make sure you know that you have one of them flipped on. But when you go to change to a different symbol, then you'll need to make sure that this gets cleared, which that means you have to come over here, and on this column, you'll just scroll through and look for a green box. So I've got them color coded so it's nice and easy to see, right? If it's red, it's off, and if it's green, it's on. So then I just simply click it and I turn it back off, and that puts those shares back in because we did have the drip on, right? But then you look and now it says the override is clear. So you got the green check, so that means that you're good to go on that. So that shows some examples here of what this 5% and 10% actually shows you. And it will populate in this column here. Now keep in mind, this is still in work progress, right? Some of the column headings will be changed, but I wanted to get this out to get everybody's feedback. So as you can see here, I've got these three options right here that it will spit out down below. If it's 5% below the last price, then it'll tell you. It may say it's 10% below my average. And where's it getting these numbers from? Up here, okay? These are the numbers you entered in, and it repopulates and corrects this. Because as you can see, this says 5% below last price, but if I change this to 4, watch what it does. Now it says 4% below last price. So that will change accordingly. And there you go. Now it's 4% below last price. And that is looking for that calculation. Because if I change it to say 8%, now we had this 4% right here. Watch what it does whenever I change it to 8. Now it's gone, right? And of course this does say 8%, but this is gone. Why? Because the current price is not 8% below the previous price. So therefore, since that calculation is not true, it does not show you that value. And then we put it on 4, and now we've got it, right? Because it is 4% below, but it is not 5% below. So that adds a bit of adjustability to the sheet of what you want to see. So we'll just put it back on 5 for now. and we have the drip on currently. And as you can see, I can come over here, and like I said before, if we're dripping, we're just purchasing more shares. And as you can see, the share count right here is increasing. The dollar value is not, right? Because we're not investing more money. We are just investing what YieldMax is paying us in the distribution. Now, we still have what we originally spent, right? Because we are not recouping anything. We are rolling those distributions back in to the fund. And as you can see, that's what's happening in each time here. But at any point, you can say, okay, once I got up to, say, 1,000 shares here, I can go in here on this next one, and I can say that I now don't want to drip it back in. So I can turn that off. And what does it do now? Well, now it starts replenishing some of that money that we used, where we had used close to 15,000. But as you can see, that did replenish some of our money. It went from 14.9 down to 13.5. Now, these are negative because that is what you spent, right? So you are decreasing the amount that you have invested by about $1,400 here. And you can see that's this value right over here. And then we can do it on the next one as well. And as you can see, each time it is increasing back that money, recouping some of that capital, right? So by adding this in here, it gives you the ability to turn that drip off and on, even on the individual entries. And then on the next one, you can turn it back on, right? Or back off, or whatever you wanted to do. And you can start increasing your shares again. That's up to you, but it's something to play around with, right? I kind of like this part of it because I didn't like being bound to having the drip on 100% or off 100%. What if I wanted to turn it on for 6 months to a year, and then after that I want to turn it off? Well, the way it was a all or none. Now it's very flexible to allow you to turn it off if you did have it on originally, and vice versa. You can have it turned off and then on certain ones turn it on, right? So it is very versatile of what you wanted to do. But again, anytime that you would go to change and do anything like that, you would need to make sure that you go through and make sure they're all off, right? And you'll know when they're all off when you get the override clear. So that's just your handy dandy little check box. So now I did go over a lot of this over here on a previous video that I did on this, and this part really hasn't changed, okay? This part is roughly still the same. As you can see, it does give you the total number of shares that you have, your total distribution that you've earned, and since the drip is on, how much you have spent. And then it shows you the account value. It shows your account value with your distributions, the capital that you've spent, and the amount that you have at risk. Now, if I turn this off, and this turns all the drips off, right? So all drips are off, and therefore I only have the amount of shares that I had originally, because I am not showing any manual overrides because I've turned them all off. So I still had the 596. Total distributions I've earned is 15,000. My account value is 13. With the distributions, it's 28. So the capital I spent was right at $15,000, right? But the account with the distributions has a value of about 28,000. But since my distributions earned here is higher than the capital that I spent, therefore my adjusted price per average is showing as a negative, meaning that I own my shares 100%. And as you can see over here, the capital recouped 102%. And the account value, this one with the distributions, I am 89.75% above what I spent, right? But that is only good if you sell out, right? Because the account value is taking into account the share price, and therefore that is always moving, could be up, could be down. So this value would always change, right? Because that has this account value part of it. But the distributions earned, that is money I've already received. The capital I spent, that's money that I've already spent. So I've received more than I spent, therefore I own my shares free and clear. So I have 50 cents per share more than I had before. Then the last thing I wanted to show is also wanted to offer up opportunity where you can actually enter in those buys. In this case, it's below both my price and my average, right? And it's meeting this criteria up here, right? So it's 5% below the last price and it's 10% below my average. And that's what this is telling me, that the $23.20 from the current $21.91 is both 5% below the last price and 10% below my average. So to do that, you can simply go in here as well and say you buy 50 shares. And when I buy 50 shares right here, it will calculate that and it will add that to the number of shares, which will then also increase the total number of shares that you have up here. And as you can see, the amount we recouped actually went up right along with the value, right? Because we have more shares toward the front end of this one. So that's just another added opportunity for you to use. And you can enter in the shares as you see fit from here. You just enter in when you want to make those purchases and how many shares that you want to make at that time. Because here I can put in 50 and the next one I can put in 60 if I want, right? So it's very versatile of what you wanted to do. The only one that is locked in is, of course, this first one at 596 because that was the number of shares that you had at the very beginning. And of course, before you go to switch it to a different ETF, you would want to make sure that you clear out all of these manually entered values here. And like I said, the only ones that you're entering values into is the gray boxes. Not the white, not the blue, not green, red, or anything. Just the gray ones right here, okay? These values, these are up here, and this right here. And then, of course, you have your manual over here, which are gray as well. But to know if there is one hidden somewhere, you can see that the total number of shares that you originally purchased is 596. If your drip is off and you have 706 here, you know that there obviously is some extra in there. So you would just scroll down, and once you found it, then you can just delete those right on out. And like I said, with the drip off, you have 596, and now total shares 596, so you know you don't have anything in there. And of course, if you had the drip on, it's definitely going to show more shares. So you have to turn that drip off just so that you can make sure that you do have all of your manual information here removed if you were to change out this to a different symbol. Of course, you can always keep it for MSTY and then just go in and make a duplicate sheet. And you can do that with my stock tracker sheet that I do offer out so that you can keep one for MSTY, keep one for Coney, and so forth. And to do that, you can just go right here into the tab, as you can see here at the bottom, and you just right click on it and you go up to duplicate, right? Now once you hit duplicate, it will do just that. It will make a duplicate of that sheet and it will label it as copy of whatever it was named. Okay? So then at that point, you would go in here and you can right click on it and you can hit rename and we can change it to whatever we want at that point, right? You can't have it the same name and it'll tell you as it turned red just now. And we'll just say that this one is for Coney and hit enter, and we can quickly punch in Coney to see how to do that simply by just changing the ticker symbol to Coney. We can keep that same start date, and as you can see, you'll see it's loading, and then boom, there it is. Populates all the closing prices from your start date to your end date. Now, we know that we did change this, and this dividend chart is for MSTY. So if we want Coney, we would need to enter in those distributions into our chart over here for that particular one. And that chart, again, is on the other side of the big purple barrier and right here. And first thing, of course, you would do is you just highlight them all and you just hit delete, okay? And then you go to the YieldMax website. I pull up the Coney here, and I can just scroll right on down to the distribution details. Now, Coney's been out for a little while, probably about as long as MSTY, so there will be quite a few. And that's why it's just easy. I can just click, drag this straight on all the way down till it's all highlighted. You can see them highlighting a little bit. And once they're all highlighted, I let go of that left mouse button. I right click and click copy. Now, once I'm on that, I go back to my sheet. Again, click the first box right here, right click, special paste, and values only. Now, what if you just hit paste? Well, let me show you. If I just click paste, there you go. It's carrying over the format. All the values are still in there. It's just that the fact that my font for the text is black and it carried over the black background, which means you can't actually see those values. But they are actually there, because I can just highlight this whole thing and remove it, and there they are, right? But to keep from that happening, and just to keep it more simpler, it is much better if you just right click in that first box, paste special, values only. And once you do that, there you go, because that's all you want is the values. You don't want the format, just the values. Then we'll just slide right back over to our sheet right here. And as you can see, now we got Coney. We did check our dividend chart, and it now has Coney values in it. We're keeping that 15,000. We're going to keep the same 5 and 10%. The override is clear, so we don't have any of the overrides over here turned on. Our drip is off. We got 892 and 892, so we know that there are no additional personal individual share purchases down here in this area. So as you can see, on that same time frame, we have not recouped back all of the money if you did buy it at August the 23rd, because you paid $16.81 for it. But the current price of Coney is just under $10. And with the distributions, that puts you at roughly a $6.46 for the adjusted price per share. So definitely not as good as MSTY. But I wanted to show you how easy it was to go in here, change to a new ETF or a new stock, whatever you want to use, enter it in, and within a matter of a few minutes, you'll have all the information that'll be filled out in the charts. And I've tried to capture and summarize it all right here in the top of this table. But if you do want to compare, it's probably best that you just make a duplicate of the tab rather than go back and forth, as it would be very easy to miss something and throw your numbers off. But I've tried to put in some checks in here that can hopefully help from you missing anything like that. But like I said, this is still being worked on, but I just wanted to show you where I was at, what I've done with it, and wanted to get some feedback. So if you don't mind, throw your comments, feedback down into the comments of this video. It would be much appreciated, and I'll see what I can do about adding additional items in that you may call out. No promises, but I will see what I can do. But once I get this finalized and wrapped up, then I will notify everybody and make it available if it's something that you want to use, play around with, or whatever, if you are a spreadsheet junkie like me. So I think I'm going to wrap it up right there. I appreciate everybody for sticking around and checking this sheet out and hopefully giving me some feedback on it. Let me know what you like, what you don't like, and I can see what I can do about making those adjustments. So if you don't mind hitting that subscribe button, smash the like button, it'd be much appreciated. And as always, I am not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. Please do your own due diligence before you get into any stock plays. And until next time, legend out.